Welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette, featuring sysadmin expert Don Pizzette, security specialist Daniel Lowry, and Peter.
Hello and welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette. I'm your host, Peter Van Rysdam, joined as always by Don Pizzette over there in the upper corner. How you doing, Don?
I am doing great. You know, it's Halloween season, full in effect right now, so we got a lot of cool webinars and things coming up that are exciting. But today it's tech news, which I'm also excited about.
Yeah, I do love those cinnamon brooms in the Publix.
Those are great, unless you're allergic to it, like I am.
I do think about that though every time I walk in there. But I think there's really just a cop-out, so you don't have to go grocery shopping. You can send other people during the whole
Don't let out my secret.
season. And Daniel, how you doing up there?
I'm good. It was funny you said that Don was in the upper corner. I'm like, I also am in the upper corner.
Oh, that's true.
So
There's
that's
four corners. We're all in a corner.
Yeah. No one puts baby in a corner.
All right, well, we have another corner. The lower left corner there is Dr. Ghosh, who is joining us all the way from the Central Time Zone, as we learned, out in Pensacola, from the University of West Florida. He's Associate Director and Professor at the West Florida Cybersecurity Center. So how you doing, Dr. Ghosh?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. And we're kind of in similar boats. We're in a university town over here at the University of Florida, and you're out there in West Florida. I don't know. Does UF have a cybersecurity center? If they have, I haven't really heard about it.
Yeah.
They do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. I mean, does every school have one of those now?
Not every school, but some have gotten, kind of known for it. And like UWF, they've actually made Dr. Ghosh can talk about this more than I can, but made an effort to actually build up a great program.
Yeah. Well, let's get to know a little bit more about you, and we'll find out about that program in our first segment, Rapid Fire Questions.
All right, so...
Well, that didn't work.
I jumped the gun anyway. Yeah. All right, so in this segment, what we've got are a couple of rapid-fire questions. You're going to have 1 minute to answer. If you take too long, Peter will break out the buzzer that I think is not working right now. But anyhow,
just do that. Just make the mouth noise.
Yeah, there you go.
And then we'll move on. So let's start with question number 1, Peter.
So kind of getting back to what I was mentioning a second ago, we're seeing more of these programs start to come about. But can you tell us a little bit more just about the program at your school and what you guys are offering there?
So with the center, so you mentioned the center. So we are the center. The center is the non-academic side. So we, this UWF, the university on the academic side of the house, there are cybersecurity programs at the undergraduate and graduate level, and programs and courses as well. So both Department of Computer Science and Department of IT, they have cybersecurity programs and courses at both undergraduate and graduate level. Whereas we, the center, on the non-academic side of it, so we are the externally facing entity of the university, everything related to cyber. So what we do, we engage into external partnerships with organizations. We obtain external funding for research and training and education. We also work very closely with the academic department. So with our resources, our infrastructure, we do help them. We provide them support and help with our expertise as well. When we apply for this external funding, we do collaborate with the academic departments and apply funding. Some of the fundings that we have received, those are in collaboration with the academic departments as well. So that's how the center, being the externally facing entity, and the academic departments being the traditional academic programs, we do collaborate very well, and we have very solid cybersecurity programs, both at undergraduate and graduate level. Now, the center has a Cyber for All program. We design short, modular, competency-focused courses that we teach to our external partners. Those are short courses, either online or face-to-face. So that's the Cyber for All program that we have at the center.
So how about you personally? Do you spend your time teaching, or are you on the research side of things? What do you do day to day?
So both. So we as a center, we have a Cyber for All. So as part of the Cyber for All, I do develop and teach these short, modular, competency-focused courses that are scenario-driven. We do collaborate with our external partners, industry and government, and we do create and integrate scenarios into our courses that we use to teach. So those courses are, a lot of hands-on, competency-focused contents that are built on top of foundational knowledge. On the research side, my research involves anomaly detection, threat intelligence, adversary behavior modeling. and also cybersecurity education, innovative curricular development. So I am involved in both. Personally, I'm involved in both, in addition to some of the center administration as well.
So the word on the street is that your department is actually partnered with large organizations such as IBM, Amazon, and also military and government agencies like DISA, DoD, even the Navy base that's there in Pensacola. What would you say is the biggest advantage for organizations such as that, or just any organization, to partner with a department like yours?
So, if you look at traditional academic programs and departments and universities as a whole, they tend to work in silos. Their partnership or collaboration with industry or government are mostly restricted to student employment and student internships, and also some external some funding from them for research and joint projects. So the way we engage from the center, the way we engage with our external partners, there's tons of benefits. It's a win-win. It's a win-win-win. Win for us, win for students, win for the organizations as well. So we have innovative ways to design curriculum. We work with our partners to involve them in innovative curricular design. We create employment pathways for students that we work with academic programs. We develop credentialing systems. Some of the big projects that we are working on, and we'll talk about the projects if time permits. So we are working on some at some national scale, the national level, to design innovative pathways, curriculum, and credentialing systems as well. We tend to involve industry, our partners, into joint projects, share technology. We have an educational security operations center that we are actively seeking partnership, try to involve our partners into sharing technologies and research and joint projects. One other thing we are seeking to enter into with our partners is apprenticeships. Typically, again, higher education institutions have shied away from apprenticeships. Now we are trying to innovate the curriculum or innovate the higher education scenario in a way that knowledge and skills, they are actually the two sides of the same coin. I mean, you cannot have one without the other, right? So we are trying to engage into apprenticeship models that are going to impart skills and competencies on top of knowledge to our students who are already working with some companies, and also recruit them who are already working with the companies and want to come and take some courses with us. So we are trying to develop that as well with our partners. So it's a win-win for all of us.
That is fantastic, and it's I think so important to not just give them an education, but actually help the students find something after the fact and help set them up on a road for employment in the field afterwards. So that's great. And I'm curious, from your perspective as someone who's taught students over the years, obviously they've had a chance to go out there now, and you're able to probably stay in touch with social media and things now. Do you stay in touch with past students, and are there some out there that you're particularly proud of?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm proud of all my students, and I do keep in touch with them. Many of them are in LinkedIn with me in my contacts. We do discuss stuff periodically. Some of my students are working. So when I was in Minnesota 13 years, and we had great cybersecurity program at St. Cloud State, and many of my graduates, and Minneapolis, so many big Fortune 500s there. So they used to work mostly in the private sector, very few in the government. And some of the students are so well established in some of those companies like Target and Best Buy and Medtronic, 3M, Cargill. I mean, there's so many of them. United Health. So yeah, I'm in constant touch with them. I sometimes write recommendation letters for them as well when they request those type of letters. So it's always great to, the reason we are in academia because we love to work with students, and students are the center of everything we do. So yes, I do. I love to keep in touch with them. I am in touch with them, and I'm proud of all of my students.
That's great. And I can probably see it coming full circle too, where you can start to work with them again in their professional capacity then in some of those relationships. So that's fantastic. Well, while we have you on here, I want to get your take on some big news from this week. So I'm going to try pushing the button again and see if it actually works here. Ooh, it did. It's exciting. All right. So our big news. Oh, it's going to say it. There we go. Yeah. Our big news from this week is over at securityboulevard.com. And it's actually, I think, about from a month ago maybe, but we've had a chance to actually see how the news plays out. So this is the good and the not so good of the IoT Cybersecurity Improvement Act of 2020. And I'll be honest, I know very little about the Cybersecurity Act, the IoT Cybersecurity Act of 2020, but I'm hoping that you do, Dr. Ghosh. So can you give us a little bit of background first on what this act is all about?
So just to give a context, this IoT security has been a burning issue for the last few years. And honestly, U.S. government hasn't done much. This act, that HR 1668 that Congress just passed, and I'm hoping it's going to be signed into law. So this is a step in the right direction, although I think it's too little too late, but at least it's something to start with. So it creates so before I go into that, so it follows the standard, the guidelines that our National Institutes of Standards and Technologies have a report published, and I'm trying to. So it's a report on how to secure, what the manufacturers of these IoT devices should do to secure and maintain and configure these devices. So this report was National Institutes of Standards and Technology report, and this particular bill that passed in Congress, they followed that guideline, and they are establishing a framework, a process for government on IoT devices that are owned and controlled by the government, to make sure that they are secure, they are securely purchased, they are securely configured, and there's a proper as a regular maintenance, secure maintenance for those devices. So just creating this framework and the process for them. That's the broad summary of the bill.
So a couple of years ago, I had a chance to interview Bruce Schneier, who is a cybersecurity pundit, I guess, for lack of better words there. And I talked to him about securing IoT devices, and one thing he said was that we really need government regulation of IoT. And I disagreed with him on that because I don't think the government can solve most problems. And so in this case, though, the government's taking a stab at it, and they're saying, all right, we want to create some basic standards, but they know they're kind of limited in what they can do. So the approach, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but the approach is basically they're saying, in order for the United States government to buy an IoT device, it's going to have to meet these requirements, this NIST standard that's being defined. So they're hoping that through the U.S. government's buying power, that any IoT manufacturer out there is going to meet that standard so the government can buy it. But in my opinion, assuming I've interpreted this right, I don't see that being terribly effective because most IoT devices are not being marketed to the U.S. government. So, for example, like a Google Nest thermostat, right? Well, I don't think the U.S. government is buying a lot of Nest thermostats.
There's a Ring doorbell at the White House. I'm pretty sure that's how you...
and so, those manufacturers, they could choose to follow the NIST standard. It would be a good idea. I hope they do it, right? But I don't know that... Dr. Ghosh, do you feel that this is enough of a motivation for them to like do that, to be effective?
It's not. That's why I said it's too little, too late. So but it's at least a step in the right direction. So now a couple of things. The NIST, that report is not a standard though; it's a guideline. So it has a set of guidelines for the IoT device manufacturers to follow. That doesn't give them any specific criteria or any metrics or anything to follow when they manufacture or secure the devices. Having said that, and you are absolutely right. The fraction of IoT devices that are sold to the U.S. government is probably very small. I don't know the number. I don't have the numbers with me, but it is fairly small. Now, going back to regulations, what you just mentioned, what Bruce Schneier talked about, Actually, I broadly tend to agree with that regulations perspective, because the whole way this whole IoT scenarios is evolving is we are buying these devices more and more. Some of these devices are designed to help our elderly population, make their lives convenient and easy.
Dr. Ghosh, do you think that maybe more awareness in the general population at large on that these things are probably have some insecurities, and maybe you want to do a little more research than just going, oh, it's $10 less than this one, so I'll get that.
Yeah, absolutely. But can you really imagine the elderly population or even the common households are going to do that? You want to buy a smart fridge? How much time we have to really research on it, especially on the security side of it, and what the vendor is providing to us. We really don't have time to read all those big manuals, and we have time to. So basically, expecting us to secure the devices, use a strong password, like at least 16 character password, and keep changing it every month. Come on, who's going to do that?
Yeah, I saw that during Amazon Prime Day last week, right? So it's Prime Day, all these deals come across, like a Alexa-enabled light switch, but it's not from Amazon. It's some crazy, Genway brand or whatever you've never heard of.
Absolutely. And you can buy so many products from Amazon or online. You don't even know who the vendor is. Even if you know who the vendor is, you go to their website. If they have a website, they don't talk about security at all, because there is no regulation that binds and that holds them accountable. If something goes wrong, they just put up their hands. So that's where some regulations, and I agree with you, too much regulations is not good, but some regulations that hold them accountable for securely develop these IoT devices and keep them secure, or have their configuration management to keep those devices secure. You cannot rely on us to download and install patches. It has to be done by the vendor. Yeah. I don't know whether we should move to more embedded proprietary systems that the vendors have complete control on. They can push the patches whenever they want to, instead of relying on the customers or us to download and install the patches. We don't have time. I mean, we have a lot of smart devices in our home, right? So smart fridge, microwave, coffee machine, even toothbrush.
All right, so let's pretend for a moment that the President of the United States calls us on this podcast right now, as he often does, and and says, "Okay, hey, I'm going to greenlight some regulations. Give me 3 rules. Give me 3 rules that I can force on these IoT vendors." And
give me 3 rules, Don. They got to be amazing. Be the best rules you ever heard in my life.
There we go. So, Daniel, I want to get your opinion on this, but let's start with Dr. Ghosh. Or do you want to go first?
No, it's fine. Go.
Okay,
go ahead first, Daniel.
Me first? Okay.
Yeah, give me more time.
3 rules.
I can't think of one.
3 rules that you would use that would help secure IoT devices.
That would help
force them to do it.
If I could make them do it, that they had to change all default passwords and credentials. Like, you have to do that. Like, everything should be set up to where as soon as they log in, it forces them to change those default credentials.
Device won't function until you change a credential. All right, that's a good first step.
I wasn't expecting to have to do this.
I got one done. So
you got one?
Yeah. What about that they have to support that device for a certain amount of time in terms of patches and things like that? Because there's a lot of things there. It comes out, and then 6 months later that company's out of business, or there's no infrastructure set up to patch the problems that come. But that's millions of those devices are still out there.
I got another one. What if you? This is just a pie in the sky. What if you made the end user responsible for any damage that device does through being hacked because it wasn't updated or properly secured? I see Dr. Ghosh going, yeah. No. I'm like, it would work.
Yeah, and because no one will buy the devices anymore.
Yeah,
and then the manufacturer will be.
Even if you buy a $4,000 fridge and then you are responsible to keep it secure, probably a couple years down the road, I'm just throwing it away. I'm not using it.
Yeah, I'm unplugging that fridge.
Have too much time right? So it's. I think it should be more. The manufacturers should be more accountable than the end users too. I completely agree with you on the password reset, the default password reset thing. That's a great point. Also, they should make us. They should develop some kind of documentation, like not a big fat user manual, something very concise and to the point, that what the expectations are when we buy a smart fridge. What are the expectations to keep the device secure?
On that point, I would say what would be really nice is, I mean, we live in a visual age. Create not written documentation, but a series. I'll go to the website. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. And someone's demonstrating those things.
So maybe like a T-shirt when you look on the tag and it says, "Wait, don't iron this one.
Yeah,
I need to put it in the dryer on low." So when I buy that IoT device, it's I need to manually do updates.
All right, here's how I do that.
Yeah. Probably that's a good idea too. Very short videos, maybe 30 seconds or 1 minute videos of how to keep it secure, or what to do and how to do those things. That's a great point as
Don's
well.
creating a business model right now.
And,
It's a great talking point.
And if the manufacturers fail to do all these things, that's where they should be accountable.
Yeah, and not on the user end, but the manufacturer's end seems to be a better way to try to poke and prod and make things happen.
What do you think about on the manufacturer side, like required, I want to say pen test, but that's not right. What is it called when you security test
So
a
like
device?
a vulnerability assessment?
Vulnerability assessment.
Yeah. So like mandatory assessments if Peter's rule was in place of you've got to support it for 2 years, how often would you need to do checks to?
That's a good one.
What do you think that would be effective?
Well, as we know in security, like, just because you checked a box in a compliance form doesn't mean you're secure, but at least something is happening. At least they got eyes on it. And if they had to go before a judge and they said, yeah, we did a compliance test or a vulnerability assessment and we found a bunch of problems, but we didn't do anything about it, they're going to have a harder time excusing themselves from that if they did those things. So it could be a step in the right
absolutely.
direction.
And if they do those tests really honestly and they honestly publish the results without hiding any of the outcome of the tests, that would be great. They would be upfront and saying, hey, we have this problem with this particular product and we are still selling it. But if you want to continue buying this product, you are supposed to do these things to keep it secure.
Yeah. And here's a video to help you do that.
Here's a 1 minute video to help you do that. Absolutely.
I think we've got a great plan here. All we need to do now is just get the House, the Senate, and the President to agree on this. So I think
That's easy.
That's the easy part there. Peter, what are you talking
said,
about?
I'll write this up and I'll send it along.
Plus, I got to earmark a bunch of other stuff that's
Sure.
tertiary.
There's a
Has
bridge in
nothing to
here.
do with
Yeah.
this.
So I want to find out a little bit more about the University of West Florida Center for Cybersecurity. So what initiatives do you have going on right now? How can people find out more about you?
So we have a ton of initiatives going on, and some of the large-scale projects that we are working on. There is one project that it's a national scale. We are working on with 9 other institutions to establish national models for workforce development pathways, credentialing systems, alternative credentialing systems, innovative curriculum design and development. So these would be some alternative ways to train the workforce, existing workforce, or bring in new workforce and put them in cybersecurity to address the skills shortage. There's one other project that we are working on, again, with another 7 institutions. It's faculty development. So existing faculty, we train them to use scenario-based learning. So we will be offering a couple of workshops this coming summer of 2021 and then in 2022. And then also as part of that project, we would be recruiting some veterans and teach them with some cybersecurity courses and some pedagogical innovation courses to train them to become cybersecurity instructors, because there's a huge shortage of cybersecurity instructors at 2-year colleges, at 4-year colleges and universities. We haven't got it yet, but there is a Office of Naval Research. We are expecting the grant to come in very soon, that we will be working with ROTC cadets. We will teach them cybersecurity courses. We would expose them into research on control system security and vehicular security. We have the Scholarship for Service grant that we got from National Science Foundation. That it's another $2.5 million we got to give scholarship to students to make them graduate from the cybersecurity programs at UWF. And in return, they have to commit to work with the government after they graduate. So that's a great pipeline into providing cybersecurity graduates into the government sector, federal government sector.
Yeah, and that's great. You guys have the big military base out there as well,
Yep.
I know. But do you have online programs as well? I mean, it would kind of
So
makes
our
sense.
cybersecurity programs, the graduate program that started last year, that's completely online, fully online, and it already in 1 year it has more than 50 students now. This is a graduate program. The undergraduate program also has some online courses. It's not fully online, but yes, there are some online courses as well, and that program has close to 300 students now. Our Cyber for All program that we run through the center, those courses we offer online as well. So we have a contract with the Florida Department of Management Services that we teach their employees. And this year, for the last 2 years, we taught those courses face-to-face, but this year we are teaching those completely online. So yeah, we have a huge online presence in our cybersecurity program, both on the academic side and on the non-academic side as well. Then we have the National Security Agency funded and National Science Foundation funded Gen Cyber summer camps. And we have been running these camps for quite a few years now. So we could not do camps. We got the funding, but we could not do camps in 2020 because of COVID. So we postponed this in 2021. Summer of 2021, we will be running 2 camps, one with Girl Scouts and the other one with K through 12 teachers. So these are some of the initiatives that we have going. And then we have the Florida Cyber Range, which is a great infrastructure. It's a state-of-the-art platform that we integrate with our courses, that we provide hands-on scenario-based learning through the Florida Cyber Range into our Cyber for All courses as well. So these are the stuff, some of the stuff we are working on right now.
So what you're saying is you're not too busy right now.
We have so much
A lot of free time on your hands.
A lot of free time to.
What is the website for the center?
uwf.edu/cybersecurity.
All right, perfect.
Let
there more?
me double check.
That's always the gotcha question. I forget to warn people about, and the marketing people are in the back going, "How did you not know the URL?" But most people don't.
Yeah, remembering the URL, it's so uwf.edu/cybersecurity.
Perfect, easy enough. All right. Well, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and especially for giving your insight there on those regulations. That was very insightful. So thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And we've got a lot of news to get to, but we're going to do that right after this break. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this on TechNado with Don Pizzette.
So you've tried online IT training, but it's boring, out of date, and pricey. Well, IT Pro TV is always engaging, always fresh, and plans start at just $29 a month. It's online IT training that doesn't suck. Start today at itpro.tv.
All right, welcome back to TechNado with Don Pizzette. Thank you so much to Dr. Ghosh for joining us and talking to us all about that cool cybersecurity stuff. But we've got a lot of news to get to, some of it cybersecurity related as well. But first, we're going to jump in with our weekly Raspberry news, because that's something we've noticed. There's been a trend recently. So this article is from tomshardware.com. Surprise Raspberry Pi Compute Module 4 announced. Ooh, and there's an update. So, Don, what is
There's
this
always an update.
Device all about?
So it wasn't so much a surprise. Like they released the Compute Module 3, 2 years ago now. And if you're not familiar with the Compute Module, basically what they do is they take a Raspberry Pi and they remove all the ports from it and give you a standard interface. Before it was the SODIMM interface. So the Compute Module 3s looked like a laptop memory chip, right? But it had the multi-core processor, a gig of RAM, some eMMC flash, all built into that, what looked like a memory card. Well, today they announced I believe it was yesterday, they announced the Raspberry Pi 4 version of that. So the CM4, Compute Module 4. The big difference here, the big game changer, is the amount of memory. So instead of being limited to 1 gig of RAM, you can get 2 gigs, 4 gigs, or even 8 gigs of RAM. And they also have various amounts of eMMC flash that are built into them. So you get basically the entire Raspberry Pi 4, but in a very, very small form factor, which is really useful for people that make projects like portable routers, smart televisions,
Keystroke
handheld
loggers.
Keystroke loggers, sure. I mean, it's super compact.
Yeah.
And it's got some extra stuff in it, too. Like it's got a PCIe bus where you can actually have a PCIe, I think a 2X port. I don't remember the actual.
So how do I connect this to something else then? Is it all wireless?
Well, so when you're doing development, it actually has 2 connectors on the bottom side of it that are proprietary.
Okay.
And I'm saying they're proprietary. They might actually be micro PCIe or something, but basically they have a breakout board that you can buy, you plug it into, and then whatever hardware it is that you're designing to support. So if you're building like a smart television, you would put a socket in there that was ready to receive this little 2-connector system to be able to connect up. So it's a little bit weird. I've been using that Turing Pi CM3 cluster where all the memory cards line up next to each other in a row. This is designed to lay down flat. It's not the memory card format anymore, so they actually have to do riser cards for it. So it does make some things a little more complex, but really cool if you operate in that space.
Yeah, I'm assuming we're going to see a lot of really cool homegrown projects come out of this now that it's expanded its capabilities. I mean, Sky is now going to be where somebody was like, man, if I could just have a little more RAM and a little better, connectivity to this thing, I'd really I can do that now. Okay, well, let me get out my solder gun.
Yeah, the article last week, where you can run VMware's ESXi on a Raspberry if you get the 8 gig model.
I believe that's called eSexy.
Oh, that's right. We did a 7.
We're keeping eSexy.
We're trying to make that a thing that catches on.
So if you're able to do that and you start running full virtual machines, not just containers on it, but even containers, like having that extra memory makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And so power-wise, that's one of the connectors on the bottom as well?
Yeah.
Or do I just tap into the power on the thermostat when I hide it in Daniel's house?
You probably could. It just runs on 5 and 12 volt. It does require heavy amperage, if I recall correctly.
I can't wait to find a dead Peter Van Rystum outside of my house. 2 jumper cables in his hand and a Raspberry 4 laying on the ground.
Yeah, that's how it would work too. I'd be like, I don't know where to plug it in.
Peter and I have a great story involving jumper cables and fire.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, on the black and white instructions attached to the jumper cable, the black cable was the white cable.
Was the
and
red
the white cable is the
black cable.
Yeah.
It was backwards, and so I didn't know that
I
cables
blame
can
y'all's
catch fire.
fathers right now.
But
come on.
My car and Don's car were at one point connected by a cable of fire.
Did the cables were they not labeled minus and plus?
Look,
They weren't at all?
They
Oh,
were not
wow.
labeled, and it had a black and white diagram on it.
Did you buy them from
I don't.
Billy's Cables and
I mean, the
accessories?
cables were red and black, but I just mixed them up. But the favorite part is because we're sitting there going, well, "What do we do now?" Knowing that I'm not grabbing that fire
electricity
cable.
is coursing through it.
Yeah,
Fire.
and fire.
and we probably should do something quick because, I heard batteries can explode. So
Especially a big one like that.
Don grabs a stick off the ground and
That
it's just,
didn't work.
just hitting the cables.
I had to run get a wooden hammer to pry it off.
Yeah, and
Nice.
eventually the cable did snap too of just the heat.
Wow. Wow, that got hot.
It was awesome. So that's why we are in IT instead of
So explain to
mechanics.
me why neither of you pulled out a cell phone and videoed any of this, because I wanted to see that.
Again, the risk of death.
I didn't want to blow up his Jeep.
So when my wife, see, this is how you got to program your brain. When my wife got puked on by our youngest daughter, like straight down her chest, I went, "Oh, that's horrible. Oh man, that is so bad."
When I was filming my daughter singing in the tub and she pooped in the tub, I did not stop filming.
No, as you don't. As you
So,
don't. That is
I'm
gold
proud of that
blackmail
moment.
right
Yeah,
there.
I'm proud of that moment.
When she
right.
shows up one day with something you think is inappropriate
Like,
to
oh,
wear, like, I don't think so.
That's not something that someone who pooped in the tub would wear. I need to pull that back up. All right.
TikTok.
I think put that on TikTok. Yeah. All right. I think we got all we can out of that story. So let's move on over to Computer World now for our next article. Microsoft ends support for Office 2010, bangs the Office 365 gong. So we've still got Office 2016 in there that's getting support then, right?
It's funny. The article totally fails to mention Office 2013.
Oh, 2013,
And I had to, I hunted Ronnie down earlier this morning, Ronnie Wong, one of the edutators at ITPro TV, and said, wait, isn't there an Office 2013? He was like, yeah. And I looked it up, and sure enough, it is still around, and it still has 2 more years of support on it. So
it's kind of like the Vista of offices.
Yeah,
though,
But
right?
the
Hanging
deal
in
here,
there.
Office 2010 was very widely distributed. Like a lot of people used it, and there really, since Office 2010, there really haven't been that many changes. So if you move from 2010 to 2013 to 2016 to 2019 to Office 365, they're all about the same except for the cloud storage stuff. So many people haven't felt the need to upgrade. Microsoft has announced they've ended the support. It's been 10 years, right? So it's okay.
Somebody went, it looks like we're losing a ton of money we could be making on that subscription-based model. Let's just go ahead and stop doing that.
And, macros and Office
true. That's true.
wormable exploits are very real. So if you're still running 2010, it is 10-year-old software. It is time to upgrade and move to something new.
Time to do it.
So you said the next one's 2 years. So they put out that this plan. It's not just you get an announcement one day, hey, we're not supporting this anymore. This is coming far in advance.
It's usually a 10-year cycle with Microsoft. There are exceptions, and they even mentioned that here is that not only is Office 2010 going, Office 2015 for Mac is being ended as well. And there's a whole new version of Office for Mac, so it's not like they're not supporting it anymore.
Now, Don, they also mentioned there is still going to be a standalone that is going to be, they're not going to do updates and stuff, but it's for those air gap systems. They're not going to be, kind of like, they need some functionality, but they don't need full on.
And they don't expect regular people to buy that.
Right.
That's really targeted to like the U.S. Navy, where you're on a submarine and you don't want to be connected to
You're
Office
not getting
365.
updates.
They don't have a cable.
Yeah, this O365 is garbage.
Or your agency just will not approve a subscription. It needs to be a CapEx versus OpEx,
something like that.
Junk, accountants.
Yeah.
Wow.
They didn't ask me to name it, so.
Yep. So that's it. But it is a big deal, especially in the enterprise space. If you still have Office 2010 deployed, it is now a security risk.
All right, so move on
What's
over.
not,
Yeah,
right?
get on Office 2013 now. I think is the answer to that. All right, our
For now.
Our next article is over at bleepingcomputer.com. U.S. Cyber Command patch Windows bad neighbor TCP/IP bug now. So I'm assuming bad neighbor. This is something coming out of Canada.
Well, I think.
How do you like our
the bad
exploit,
neighbor?
I mean, if you're the bad neighbor, then it works the other way as well.
Right.
You're the bad neighbor to me.
It's just, it depends on the perspective.
My
right?
enemy's enemy is my friend. or
Something like that.
Unless we hate them too.
Yeah.
So in this case, though, we've got a CVE 2020-16898. We're getting up there on CVE numbers.
It is.
Where basically this is a bug that affects the TCP/IP stack found in Windows 10 all the way up to version 2004, as well as Windows Server 2019, also 1903 all the way up to 2004, where a attacker on the network can send ICMP v6 packets and basically hit your network adapter and blue screen to death your machine. So it is like prime denial of service fodder that you can do. When this initially came out, they gave it a danger rating. That's not what it's called. What is it?
Severity rating.
Severity rating
Yeah.
of 9.8,
Ooh,
which
that's
is
not bad.
10 is the highest.
That's very bad.
But they came back and reduced it down to an 8.8 after people said, wait a minute, it's not routable over the internet. Like the
That's
attacker
tough.
has to be on your network to pull this off. It's not a routable attack. Now, thanks to IoT devices, it's not hard for an attacker to get a foothold on a network, and then with this, they could effectively blue screen every computer on your network. Microsoft has pushed a patch out for it, and there's also a simple mitigation you can do on your own if you want to disable the DNS responder that is being triggered.
Gotcha. So some version of TCP IP version 6, then the DNS conjunction.
Yeah, it's, hang on, I'll find it here real quick. It is the ICMP v6 Recursive DNS Server, RDNSS, which is not a required part of your operating system, but if you've got that turned on, that's what's being exploited. So you can just turn that off and problem solved, or you can do an update.
Now, it's funny. It's like, this is typically where wormable exploits start. Like, well, yeah, we were able to denial of service you, and that's always good because you always see those proof of concepts come out. And it's like, yep, you can DOS that box in a heartbeat. Great. But it seems like we could do a little more if we just had a little more information, if we just tested a little longer. And a lot of times that's exactly what happens. They'll keep testing and poking at it and figure out what's going on and go, oh, yeah, I just popped calculator on this thing by sending it the right string of information. And now you got a lovely RCE.
And these kind of things can be super effective. And it reminds me of one several years ago. There was a vulnerability on Cisco phones where you could make a Cisco VoIP phone ring. You're not actually calling, but you'd make it ring. And so whoever's sitting there would pick up the phone, nobody would be there. And they hang up, and they would just ring again. And so it would just constantly ring. The
Just
phone
an
would ring,
annoying, yeah.
Until finally they would unplug the phone. And so you've effectively denial of service.
Ah.
Yeah, so the phone still worked, but it was so annoying. Oh, imagine your computer's blue screening every 30 minutes.
Oh yeah, you'd hate your life.
Yeah.
It sounds like the good old, like the golden era of hacking, 70s era types of hack where they would just out to
Annoy the piss
do
out of
some
you.
like anarchy stuff. Yeah, have a good time, have some fun, eat some pizza, and make Ma Bell sweat for a few minutes.
There was that Mac virus back in the 80s that would make the Mac sneeze.
Did it?
Did you ever
I
see
didn't know that one.
Oh.
Yeah.
So when I was at the University of Florida, well, actually that would have been the mid '90s. After hours, you go into a Mac lab and you were almost guaranteed to hear a sneeze. And you look around, you're like, all right, one of these computers is infected. I don't know which
Yeah.
one, but
It's got
one of
that
these Macs
virus.
just sneezed.
Nice.
So ICMP, is that the band with the juggalos?
Yes, it is.
Insane clown message protocol.
I'm stuck back on that one. I didn't realize that they were cyber guys. That's
They're on the
cool.
terror watch
Yeah,
list.
we'll have to name this CVE the Juggalo. Oh, yeah.
Oh, so speaking of which, I did want to mention that. So CVE 2020 16898. Does that mean there are 16,898 vulnerabilities that have come out this
I
year?
think that the second number is randomized. The first number is the year that it comes out. I don't know that it's actually like a numerical incrementation.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's your homework for this week. We were looking at. I think they should name them like hurricanes. We should just go down the alphabet each year.
And then hit the Greek alphabet.
CVE Sharon is really
CVE Sharon.
really messing things up over in ICMP. All right. I clearly don't know what I'm talking about. All right. Our next article is from ArsTechnica.com. Thousands of infected IoT devices used in for-profit anonymity service. Interplanetary Storm uses P2P networking, mostly in devices running Android. So going back to exactly what you were saying on the last article, Don, you've once you got the foothold in these devices, and there you go.
We've talked about botnets a number of times on the podcast, and a lot of times these IoT devices get taken over and turned into zombies that are part of a botnet. They can then stage denial of service attacks. This one's a little different. That they spread out. They infected over 9,000 IoT devices around the globe, and then they used them to set up a peer-to-peer network for anonymization so that they could, kind of like Tor, when you get into the Tor cloud and nobody knows who you are when you exit the cloud. Well, that's how this was. So the attacker could basically pass through this network and it could appear as any node in the network. This is really interesting because a lot of people watch their network for exfiltration activities, denial of service. You look for that giant burst of traffic coming out. But in this case, they were just hiding themselves. It'd be very difficult to detect this because of the size of the traffic. And they mentioned Interplanetary Storm. If you're not familiar with that, that's a peer-to-peer file storage protocol that you can use to basically create file resources that are stored across any number of machines. And when you go to address it, the protocol will find that file regardless of where it is. So it's not tied to any one node. So not only were they able to anonymize themselves by using this as a proxy to go in and out of, they were able to store files in there and be able to pull files back out safely, even if some of the nodes were caught and removed. It's really pretty ingenious, and it shows how dangerous these IoT devices can be.
And it's funny, when I was reading this article, I was sitting there, and Wes and I were kind of working up some demonstration for Security Plus. We're getting ready to get into Security Plus really heavily. And we were talking about doing a brute force attack against a network service such as SSH. And then I turned my eyes over to this article, and lo and behold, what does it do? How does it propagate? It scans networks for SSH and then tries to brute force weak passwords. So there you go. This is something we were just talking about with Dr. Ghosh, just about how if we could get people to change things like default credentials, use stronger passwords, and get some better awareness on the end product, or maybe even help them opt into those security features a whole lot easier, then we wouldn't see a propagation of something like this as readily as it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Don, as you said, that this is a really kind of inventive and an interesting way to go about this. Is this something that they took from existing technology? Like there's already services out there that, they're used for good that use this kind of peer-to-peer system? Because I only hear about that in like Napster and things like that when I think of peer-to-peer. Like, are there good uses for this?
Well, I mean, the Interplanetary Storm, that has been written and published for years and years. That's available for anybody to use. We could use it right now. It's designed to be used on your systems, but you could. And the idea with it was I could have file storage servers in AWS and file storage servers in Azure and on-prem, and and the interplanetary storm would just make that all appear as one place to me, and I could access the resources regardless if any one of the clouds went down. So
Isn't it Dropbox? Is that Dropbox?
kind of, yeah. I mean, in a way. The difference here, though, is just kind of the hiding yourself part, and that's really what Tor did, which was designed to help people be able to get on the internet even under oppressive governments. So they're really just taking tools that were designed for good and potentially using them for evil, I would assume, in this scenario, but it doesn't necessarily have to be.
Yeah, because they were just saying it was creating an anonymized network that they were having people paid to attach to, right?
I'd be curious if it's ever gone the other way, where there is something that comes out as malware originally, and then someone says, "Ooh, I think of a way to monetize that and make a product out of that," and I guess you wouldn't have to pay royalties in that case.
I mean, some stuff has done that kind of like that, right?
Do you remember way back, and this would have been in the 90s, there was a hacker who got arrested, thrown in jail, which was pretty uncommon at the time. And then he spent his time in jail writing a attack tool called Satan.
Oh, yeah.
And
I remember that.
He made the announcement. He said, "Hey, when I get out of jail, I'm releasing this tool." And as he approached his time where he was getting released, he got hired by a security company, and they took the tool and changed it into Saint,
right? Yeah.
Yep. And then they released that out, and it became like the de facto vulnerability tester that people used for a decade.
Up until Nessus came out, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I started on.
So I haven't touched it in years. I don't know if it's even still supported anymore.
Probably
but
not.
So some of these tools do get turned over to the forces of good.
Yeah, it's like that's a whole pre-crime Minority Report situation, because you're like, well, we don't want to let you out of jail because you're going to do this, but you haven't done this yet. So,
well, it almost created a job wave where people thought, oh, if I can hack somebody's system, then I've proven my skills, and now they'd be stupid not to hire me. It's like, no, we'll just put you in jail.
yeah,
Because
you forgot about that part where you're in jail for 5 years first.
You're doing wrong things.
I guess it's kind of like the iPhone jailbreakers.
Yeah.
Right? Like people used to jailbreak the iPhone and release that for free and whatever. But now they've learned, hey, if I can jailbreak the iPhone, I can sell it to the Israeli government, to the U.S. government, and make a ton of money. I can sell it to both governments. That's probably more true.
Who's that hacker?
That's Ferengi?
Who's the hacker that's on the speaking tour now that had that same situation where he was in jail for a while? He's kind of like one of the first.
It's not Kevin Mitnick, is it?
Kevin Mitnick, yeah, because we saw him at DattoCon, I think it was. He spoke at one of the conferences we were at last year, in the days when you could go places.
Yeah.
It was simpler times.
I love speaking at conferences from my house.
Yeah, that's nice. Like there's not some mixer I have to go to afterwards.
that's true.
It's the couch.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, our next article is from CNN.com. 6 Russian military officers charged in a worldwide cyber attack. And this is normally where I'd get to push that button for like behind bars and the Law and Order theme and all that good stuff, but no one's behind bars.
No.
Because I was reading this article, and a couple of the guys have already been charged. There were guys charged back in the Democratic Party hack, I think, of 2016. So
Yep.
this is just empty paper.
Now, they land in a friendly nation state, though,
Yeah,
which they hadn't.
but they know now not to leave.
yeah.
So what's going on, and I'm sure all of you out there in TV land have heard this on the news media and other places that, it's the Russians. The Russians are hacking our system. We're constantly being attacked by the Russians. And while it is sensationalized, it's also true. But, I mean, we're hacking them as well, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it is kind of a tit for tat.
I would like to hear those stories from over there, the Russian version of TechNado, where they're talking about the Americans retaliating.
So, oddly enough, and a total tangent, they don't usually publish that in the news over there. Remember, it's state-run media, and so it doesn't make it over there. But
Shame.
it does happen. But we had the Democratic National Convention or Committee where their servers got compromised. A lot of their emails got leaked, and that was tied back to Russian hackers that were a part of GRU, which is a official government agency over there. It's the
It's like their NSA, essentially, right?
yeah, except they just focus on basically cyber attack. Like that's what they do. They penetrate other governments'
It's
networks.
not defensive at all. Okay.
And
It's not defensive at all.
so our government, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Our government had identified several of the operatives, and if you look at the pictures the FBI posted on the wanted poster, like several of them are in their uniforms, right? So these
yeah.
are military ranked officials in the Russian military.
The other are just wearing silk shirts with like gold chains and Lamborghinis.
Yeah, oh,
right?
he's the guy that paid for it.
Yeah.
And so this is a pretty common thing that happens, even if you take the cybersecurity out of it, right, with just the military, that oftentimes, I think we have the, what's the Iranian Guard called?
The Republican Guard?
The Republican Guard.
Oh, I thought that was
Oh, no, that's
Iraq.
Iraq. Yeah, this is the...
Iraq had the Republican Guard.
What is Iran has something... They have an elite guard also, and basically we've listed them as a terror organization, and most of them have been held on charges for various things. It doesn't actually do anything, right? Like, obviously, their government is not going to extradite them over here, but if they were to ever leave the country, we could try and pick them up, and internationally, it gives us grounds to be angry at them. And so that's what they're doing here, is they're basically outing and saying, not only do we know this Russian hacking group exists, here's 6 people that we know are a part of it, and so they're now bad guys to us.
I remember listening to one of the Dark Deck Diaries podcasts, and he was talking to a gentleman that worked for our NSA and did cyber espionage and things, and he said when I think it was when the Shadow Brokers leaked all that information and WikiLeaks stuff kind of came out, he was like, my name was kind of in that. We were getting ready to go to Singapore, and they were like, don't get on the plane because we don't know if they know that you've done anything. And if you land in so yeah, we're doing the exact same thing and have been. And that's just kind of the idea of having borders, I guess, and people that aren't friendly to you.
Yeah.
So I understand how they can tie this back to the GRU and say, okay, these were servers in this building or anything like that. How are they putting names with this? I mean, yes, they work there, but is there actually a connection between this guy did this attack?
Yeah, this is where like the cloak and dagger stuff comes in.
Yeah.
You know, that we have informants and things in their government. They obviously have tons in ours, and so that's how governments work.
Yeah.
That this is what this is what our taxpayer dollars fund.
That's right. Got to know what's going on so I can put sanctions on somebody that's never going to leave Russia.
Yeah, it's the 7th guy that worked on this, Frank Smith.
Yeah.
He's our
That Frank is a heck of a hacker.
Now, a lot of this stuff is just symbolic. It's just to show, like, hey, we're aware of this that's going on, and it is a little bit of a black eye to the other side to be able to say, like, hey, we were actually able to identify the people you got.
And when you burn a spy like that or somebody that's an asset for that country, it does kind of like reduce their effectiveness because now everybody knows that's what you do and that's who you are.
But at the same time, they're probably heroes in Russia.
True.
So they can move about freely in their own country, and they can continue doing exactly what they've been doing.
Yeah, they're going to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
They're having dinner with Edward Snowden tonight. It's a good time.
He's a good man.
He's a good guy. Yeah. You show me how to get in. Yeah. All right, that's all we got on the news front, but I want to let you know about a good webinar coming up related to some of the topics we've actually talked about
as opposed to the
today.
bad webinars we've had in the past.
Man, they have been some stinkers.
Daniel just did a webinar. I'm not saying anything. But, this one is Lessons from the Dark Web Using a Raspberry Onion Router for Secure Internet Access. So we were talking about the Raspberry before, and this is Donna's going to show us how to create an Onion router from a Raspberry and set that up so you can browse discreetly on the Tor network there. So that's exciting. That is taking place Thursday, October 29th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So, of course, that will be our Halloween theme, and we're going to have some fun with that. If you head over to itpro.tv/webinars, you can register for that one, and you can also see all the on-demand ones that we've done in the past. Like Daniel's, Secrets of IoT, Are Your Devices Spying on You? And where, again, we talked about getting a foothold today onto a network, and then you can take advantage of all that other stuff. Which article was that about? If you have a foothold, the TCP/IP.
You got it, man. You can do it.
Bad neighbor.
Yeah. No, that was the denial of service attack. That's true.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Good story.
Yeah. Like, you almost had it. Next time.
I'm still looking up
Next
that
time.
Iranian military unit. I can't remember the Revolutionary Guards. Is that it?
That sounds
The
right.
revolution. Yeah, that might be
sounds
right.
right.
Yeah.
We'll go with that. All right, I did something good today. And
Saved your job.
I think I kind of got. Well, you got an A from Dr. Ghosh on your assignment when he said your one of your 3 parts of the new law
the
were good.
default
Oh,
credentials.
yeah.
Yep.
He kind of mentioned mine, so I don't think he didn't.
You'll take it as a win.
praise
It's like
it,
a
but
B.
I'm-
Yeah.
it's passing.
Yeah.
I'm taking his
Yeah.
class. Pass
Nothing wrong
fail.
with silver.
Yeah. Yeah. What did they say? D's get degrees.
That's right.
Or C's. I don't know.
D's get degrees,
too?
yeah.
Okay, good for them.
What do you call a guy that got all D's in med school? Doctor.
Not my doctor. All right. While you're on that internet, head over to go.itpro.tv/technado. You can get a coupon code for 30% off your personal subscription for the lifetime of your account. You can also request a demo for your team, see the Pro Portal, and all the cool things available to teams there. That's over at go.itpro.tv/technado. All right, guys. Well, thank you again to Dr. Ghosh for joining us today, and thank you, gentlemen, for just every week I walk out of here thinking how insecure I am.
All of a
As
sudden
you
you start
should.
thinking, boy, that Ted Kaczynski guy, he might have had it right.
I'm going to go read that manifesto again.
I
real
haven't
quick.
read that in a few years,
Yeah.
but That guy makes some good points.
Yeah. I mean, the shooting at airplanes and blowing people's hands off was probably
yeah.
a touch much, but
And
With a
I'm
cabin in the woods.
I'm not saying anything, but that's why Justin's not on the podcast anymore.
He's up in the mountains.
he did say that his dream is to just walk off into the woods like Jeremiah Johnson one day. And that was the last we heard of him.
I don't think you're going to get a manifesto coming out from him, though.
He would have some good crazy hair, though. Yeah.
What do you mean would
Like
have?
when they find him, and he's like, "Oh, I've been eating my own crap for like 6 days."
I don't think he's even dressed. That's just full body hair. That's impressive.
Sasquatch.
Is that the swamp ape or whatever? Yeah.
Skunk ape.
Skunk ape.
Florida skunk ape.
That's
That's a
just
thing.
Justin.
For
That
those
is
of you
a
outside of
thing,
Florida.
yes,
All right,
it
Justin,
is.
come back on and defend yourself from these attacks. We'll have you on soon. So thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next time on TechNado with Don Pizzette.